Let's talk about Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are back. The Eye of the Storm podcast. Daniel, you want to let the people know what we will be discussing today?
So this is Have You Seen, in which we talk about a movie that some of us know well and others have just seen for the first time. This week, we're talking about Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So I've seen that movie a bunch of times, and the two of you have just seen it for the first time. Or you've seen it before, but Jonathan has just seen it for the first time. So Jonathan, question to you, what are your thoughts?
I'd say that it's because we had this discussion before where we said, Daniel, you mentioned that some people argue Terminator 2 might be the best sequel ever made. Obviously, it's in competition with Aliens, right? So for me, I would definitely have to side with Terminator 2. Don't get it twisted. Aliens was great. I definitely understand why people were saying it was one of the best sequels of its time, even though I do believe Alien Romulus is better, but you guys can tune into the other discussion for that. But Terminator 2, I'll be honest with you, bro, this sequel was amazing. Especially like Sarah's evolutionary character arc, the way that was executed was freaking... It was good. It was borderline great. It was like, obviously, you saw, like, it was just the progression of it. We'll get into that later, but yeah, man, this had a more tenser feeling. Especially like scenes where they get in John, where obviously Terminator needs to get to John, and then obviously the scene where them two need to get to Sarah in the hospital scene. Everything about this movie was amazing. I was shocked. Like, it didn't feel like... Well, this came out in the 90s, right?
94, I think. I have to look it up.
Okay, cool. But it didn't feel like an old movie. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of old movies feel very slow, and background music can kind of be overbearing at times. But this one, there were times it was just silent, and they got those silent part right where they didn't even add no background music, and it was just, the tone of it was just excellent. This was probably one of my favorites. I'll be honest, it was one of my favorite sequels. I don't know if it was the best ever sequel. Maybe it is the best ever sequel. I just need to pretty much think of other movies which I've seen. Arnold Schwarzenegger's performance was... That guy is sick, man. Like, just see, like, the end scene. Like, what surprised me was the end scene, because I forgot he was a Terminator. Because, like, his sacrifice, right? Obviously, when he had to sacrifice himself, it kind of like got me by surprise, because I actually forgot that he was human, and it kind of showed his character arc and his progression. His character arc was, obviously, it was like from a robot to a human, and like he was slowly kind of progressing into a human, obviously because of John's teachings, and just him and John's relationship dynamic. So he does need to kill himself in order for there not to be another freaking RoboCop, a robo evolution, revolution, war, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. It was a very good movie. I enjoyed this one thoroughly well. I think this might be a throwback film, this might be the best throwback film I've seen so far. Did I say Aliens was my best first time watching film I watched so far?
Until you saw this.
Yeah, until I saw this. Yeah, so Terminator 2 so far is number one.
Was it what you thought it would be?
No, but it made sense. Like, kind of like Sarah being off her rocker and kind of being cuckoo. And even when she met with John, like, it made sense as well that there was tough love there, and she was just so focused on John's prophecy that she forgot how to be a mother. So it was like, that made sense. And obviously the relationship dynamic between John and Terminator. First, what I didn't expect, but what was good as well was the kind of like mystery unveil of who was the good Terminator. Because you see Arnold, and like, okay, he's back again, and then you see the other cop, but then the RoboCop, he kind of had like a bad vibe to himself. I was like, something's going on here. I could just feel it, I could sense it. So I'm like, yeah. And then obviously when John end up saw in Terminator, and then obviously the RoboCop was behind him, I was like, okay, so the Terminator is here to save him. This makes sense. And also another thing which I freaking enjoyed was the battle with the old Terminator versus the new Terminator model. That scene, like, just their war going on was so sick. Like, especially the phone booth scene, which was actually very amazing. How the Terminator just wanted to make sure that was actually John's foster mom, and what he did, like they tricked each other with the whole voice mimicking. I was like, yeah, this movie is that solidified it for me. I was like, yeah, this movie is gonna be very interesting. It was good, man.
Did you know that Schwarzenegger was the good guy in this? So in the very first scene, when he arrives, and in a way that mirrors the first one, right? Like, did you think it was the same thing again, or did you know that he was reprogrammed and he was the good guy in this?
I felt like as soon as I saw the RoboCop's introduction, that's when it kind of, that's when I kind of figured out like something's going on, and potentially Arnold could be the good guy, because it just wouldn't. First, it wouldn't make sense. It could make sense that there's two guys going out there, two robots. What they refer to? They're not referred to as Terminators, but two Terminators going after John. Cyborgs, two cyborgs going after John. So yeah, it was. I think the vibe of the RoboCop. I keep calling it RoboCop. I'm calling it RoboCop. The vibe of the RoboCop kind of let me know.
And if you're a fan of the RoboCop movies, let us know in the comments how much that annoys you.
But yeah, so and plus even Arnold's vibe, he was different. He didn't seem, I don't know, like even though he had the same facial expressions, he just didn't have that like evil aura about him. It just felt, this one he felt like he was going out to look for someone, but not in a I need to kill you type of way. Yeah, I don't know, it just felt different. It felt different.
I was gonna say, because like what they tried to do in terms of like convincing people, because obviously like people that watched the first one and Arnold Schwarzenegger was like the bad guy, was that, with like Arnold Schwarzenegger, they kind of like showed the Terminator eye and like everything would like glow red, and like when he's like scanning things and this and the other. And I saw like they purposely didn't do it for, you're gonna even call him RoboCop guy as well, because you like now put that in my head. But for like the actual Terminator, the actual bad Terminator in this movie, they don't show those scenes of like him obviously being like a Terminator in this, in terms of like he's not doing like the scanning thing or anything like that. They're just like showing him as a person. So you're saying like none of that was able to fool you at all?
No, because
you don't see the the Terminator vision until later in the movie, right?
Yeah.
And then when he gets damaged, his face is intact, right? Which is different from the first movie, where his face becomes more like a skeleton over time, and here it's kind of around the edges, but his eyes and his face are still intact, which keeps his humanity in place, right?
Yeah. But with RoboCop, like as soon as he punched the police officer in the stomach, I was like, that seems a bit more sinister in a way, because obviously when John's dad was introduced, even though there was still like mystery behind his appearance, because obviously when he was running away from the police, like he was running away from the police officers, you know what I'm saying? So he was more of someone that was less of a threat because he was running away, and he was just trying to get to someone, but he was running away. Whereas when we saw RoboCop, he just straight away walked
just call him the T-1000.
T-1000, cool. Yeah, Daniel got pissed off. T-1000. But yeah, he had no like expressions on his face. He just looked towards the police officer and then went boom. I was like, oh.
I think this movie does a couple of things really, really interestingly. I think I read somewhere that in the first movie, Schwarzenegger was kind of a nobody, and this was his first real movie role, and so he was okay with playing the bad guy. And then fast forward to 91, he's been an action star for a while, and so he didn't want to play the bad guy anymore, and so the plot had to be such that he was the good guy, which normally is a recipe for disaster, right? A star's ego kind of derails what the plot should be, and the resulting movie and is a worse story because of it. But here I think it really works, where it's like the logical escalation, where like the obvious thing to do is Skynet sends back two Terminators, and now they have to fight two Terminators, right? And in order to not do that, you send back a more advanced Terminator. But how do you fight a more advanced Terminator with the basic Terminator, which also makes it an underdog story, right? Because the undefeatable monster from the first one is now obsolete because Skynet has gotten that much more powerful, right? So it's kind of a logical escalation of the story, I think, that kind of just makes sense without anybody having to explain it or without having to think very hard about it. It just works. It's just intuitive.
Yeah, I think the only not issue, because it's really minor, but it doesn't quite explain how he was reprogrammed. It was just like he was reprogrammed and sent back, so it's a bit like you just kind of have to take their word for it, and it doesn't really give a hint as to like how he was able to do it. But again, I think that's like more minor nitpicking details as opposed to sort of not really anything else.
I'm totally say John reprogrammed him.
Yeah, no, John reprogrammed him. Yeah, but it doesn't like, I don't know. There isn't like a how or a why. But again, it's probably it's not important. It's not important, but it was just like a detail I picked up. It was just like convenient, but it's not like a massive deterrent of the movie at all.
But I don't think you need to explain it if it's in character, right? Like John has been fighting the Terminator since before he was born, and he led that resistance, and he's been like he's been off that world for decades, right? And they know Terminators inside and out. Like they've been fighting Skynet for a long time. And this is also the more basic version, so it's not that big a challenge, I guess. I have no questions when the movie tells me, yeah, John Connor reprogrammed an obsolete Terminator model and sent it back in time. There's nothing illogical about it. I don't need to be told the steps.
No, it's not. Again, it's not like a massive big deal.
Was John Connor who you thought he was going to be? Number one, did you expect to see John Connor in this movie? Number two, did you imagine him to be this way?
To be fair, there wasn't really much to go off in the first movie because he wasn't born. So in terms of how it was presented, it's like I didn't expect it, but I wasn't surprised by it because it's an introduction to his character.
Yeah, but there were different options, right? He could have been a small child, he could have been a teenager, he could have been an adult. This could have been after Sarah Connor was already gone, and it's just John Connor just on his own, like as an adult, right? Like the story could have been a bunch of different things, and making him a 12, 13-year-old. It was not the only option, right? And when people have criticisms of this movie, it's often that John Connor is a bit annoying, and he should have been older. Was he annoying to you? Do you see that? Or
no, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, to be honest. He was just a rebellious kid, and obviously it made sense because obviously people are telling him that his mom's cuckoo, and he even starts to believe that his mom's cuckoo because obviously like she's telling him like, you're the future, you lead a resistance, and she's training him for like pretty much to be a leader. In like war settings in an environment that's normal. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing going on. There's no society doesn't know about no robots. It hasn't even been created yet. So it makes sense for why he is the way that he is because like he's the product of an environment. He's around madness, so it makes sense for him to be rebellious. So I don't agree that I don't agree. Well, everyone's got their own opinions. They have their own likes and dislikes. But for me, I think this made sense. Plus, it enabled the whole father and teacher dynamic between him and Terminator, which was another great storyline as well because you saw a lot of things develop. Obviously, you saw the whole toxicity between them, which is funny, especially like in the scene where there's two guys trying to protect John, and then he ends up telling the Terminator to like, I think one of them calls him a brat, and he ends up telling the Terminator to kind of like to pick him up by his, I think he picked him up by his head or his shoulders or something like that, and he nearly killed him. That scene was hilarious. So,
I think this movie, first of all, I think John is a little bit of a brat in some scenes, and sometimes he overstays his welcome a little bit, as far as I'm concerned. But overall, I think he's great in this, and also, like you just mentioned, he undergoes this arc as well, right? Because he's just a rebellious teenager or preteen, I guess. I'm not sure how old exactly he is, but he just rejects everything, and he's basically been abandoned by pretty much everybody. His foster parents are ineffective at actually dealing with him and giving him some kind of structure because they can't understand where he comes from. And then he gets this bodyguard, right? Like that he can just boss around, but and he abuses it for just a moment.
Yeah.
But then his conscience kicks in immediately, right? And he stops the Terminator from killing those guys that you mentioned, right? Because he would have in that moment, right? And from that point on, he tries to use that power responsibly, while at the same time kind of looking up to the Terminator a little bit, because he's not had that kind of role model before, even though that role model is kind of his future self, right? Because the Terminator's programming comes from him, right?
That's what I was gonna say. That's why I feel like they were father figures to each other as well as teachers to each other.
Yeah.
Obviously but one was obviously by default because obviously the Terminator he's a robot obviously, so he's learning on the go. Whereas like John, he kind of had to teach the Terminator obviously human nature. That's what he was teaching him, sense of humor as well, which was funny. Hasta la vista, baby. No, that's the. I've heard of that somewhere. Now it makes sense. I used to hear that. I've obviously seen clips of Arnold Schwarzenegger saying that on YouTube and stuff, but now it's good to see it in the actual film. But yeah, so like I said, they were each other's like father figures. Or because Terminator was like John's father, like John's the father that he never had. There was even a scene which, by the way, like there was a line that Sarah said, which was a highlight line for me because she said something about him like Terminator being John's father figure is the sanest choice in an insane world. I was like, damn, because that kind of links.
One of the few things I hate about this movie.
Oh no! Sorry, I have to disagree.
2 or 3 instances where Sarah goes on these out of nowhere rants.
Okay,
like the first one being that scene where she says, every other man in her life has been a deadbeat, and that this machine is the first one who measures up. And then there's another one where she says something like men destroy, women create.
Men being the creator of death. I was gonna say, because that links to that though. That's what I was gonna say. The reason why that line that it was so cold, and the line about her saying, "Oh, a sane choice in an insane world," because it links to the whole men being the creator of death. So Terminator is not that. Yeah. He's not a human in it. So it's like, okay, that line's kind of sick because
it's like John Cameron speechifying for a minute, right?
I hear what you're saying, but wait, why do you dislike? Okay, I understand the man being the creator of death is a bit wild.
Because it doesn't follow from the plot, and it doesn't make sense for that character to say that in that situation. She's not had a history of being disappointed by the men in her life. Like, that is not her story. And for her to go on, like, when a fictional character goes on that kind of speech that's not motivated by what came before and what the story is about, then that's just the author on a soapbox. Okay. Like, it's just two scenes, right, in the movie, and that stands out, and it takes me out of the movie every time I see it. But it's over quickly. I would just push back against the idea that that's a good scene, right? Because it just doesn't make any sense in character, I don't think.
Oh, yeah. And it doesn't add to the movie. For me, it links. You know what I'm saying? So when she said, I was like, okay, that's pretty sick. Well, later on, I was like, sane world and the insane world. Yeah. Sane choice in the insane world. And when she said the whole thing about men being the creator of death, even though it was a bit wild, I was like, oh, that kind of links back to what she said about Terminator being the right choice in terms of like him being a father figure. I was like, that's pretty good. For me, I liked it. But yeah, I see your point of view.
I mean, I do like the rapport between John and the Terminator, right? Like, that is kind of a father-son relationship or dynamic in some way, right? Even though it can't really be, because it's like there's not a person on the other side of that connection, right?
But they were like like that's what I'm saying. Like, that relationship was so sick because there were times where John was like his Terminator's father as well. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's how I was like the way that the way that they were each other's fathers and each other's sons. I was like, oh, that's good.
That's cool. That kind of old John is talking to the young John through the Terminator. It's kind of an interesting idea. What did we think about Sarah in this? Is she what you expected her to be? When we talked about the first Terminator, we talked about how Sarah has basically has a flawless character arc, right? Where she starts off as a regular person who needs to be saved, and then by the end she's fully embraced her destiny and is taking active measures towards working towards that, right? Having seen that and then going into Terminator 2, what did you expect Sarah to be like, and was it what you got in this movie?
I enjoyed her in terms of her journey. So I enjoyed her, like, we saw, okay, well, now we're in the period of her cuckoo times. You know what I'm saying? So it made sense, because obviously,
but she's not crazy.
Well, no, she's not crazy, but obviously to the world she's crazy. So it kind of made sense that she was. But she did have crazy moments, though. So that's why I feel like her character arc was pretty good, because there were moments, even though she wasn't crazy, she was starting to turn crazy. Like the scene where she nearly smashed the Terminator CPU chip. That could have had terrible consequences, because like this guy's pretty much the reason why you're both alive. And she had a moment of madness. Even another moment of madness where she had was when she went to go and kill what's his name, the black guy that invented pretty much
Miles,
yeah. So when she nearly went to go and kill him, I'm saying, she's actually becoming what society's labeled her as an insane woman. Do you know what I'm saying? So she had her moments.
Actually, I was going to get to that. She's not insane in that. She's a Terminator.
I see what you're saying.
Right, like the entire steps of her tracking down Miles and scoping him out and preparing the kill and then going through with it. Like, she doesn't at the last minute, but like when she misses the initial shot and just unloads a magazine into his office, that is how a Terminator would have done it.
Yeah, and obviously when she stopped, that separates. That pretty much separated her from actually being a Terminator. That's when her human nature kicked in.
Yeah, at the last minute, her humanity kicks back in. Yeah, but she's a Terminator in that scene.
Yeah.
And John walks her back at the she has a moment of conscience, and that buys John enough time to arrive and get her back from the brink, right? And after that, she's herself again. But she's I think throughout this movie she's very determined and driven, and it's taken a toll on her, that she knows what she has to do, but the world will not let her.
Yeah.
Right. No matter who, like not her doctors, not the police, not anybody. She can't even tell her militia buddies, right? Those gun runners and the militias that she lived with in South America. She has to use them because they would not believe her if she told them, and try to get them to work with her to start the resistance ahead of time, right? She has to go this alone, and it's left her really frustrated and makes her do things that look insane to an outside observer who doesn't know what she knows. But there's nothing she can do to convince anybody because the evidence doesn't exist yet. She cannot sit somebody down and walk them through this being real until the Terminator show up, right? Like, I like this wonderful scene in the hospital where
She saw him.
She was about to escape, and the two Terminators kind of converge on her, and that's the doctor caught in the middle. And as the bullets fly past him in two directions, he realizes that she was right all along, and he cannot believe it, and he just cracks. Like that was you know which scene I'm talking about?
Yeah, because that was my highlight scene was when she actually saw, one of the highlight scenes I had was when she actually saw the Terminator as well, and not realized that she's pretty much out of the loop. So she just
yeah. And that was the same doctors in the first movie, right? That's the one that assesses Kyrie's and says, I can make a career out of this case. And in Terminator 2, we find out that he has been doing this for 10 years and has been kind of building a career on the back of Kyrie's and Sarah Connor's cases. And then he realizes that his entire work has been a lie, and and this is actually happening. And the implication of this is that he and everybody he knows will die in a few years, because that's what she's been saying all along.
Yeah.
And that's just captured in one facial expression, right? As he's kind of cowering against the wall, and he just hopes the Terminator doesn't kill him, and the Terminator ignores him because he's not the target. But like there's this wonderful nonverbal acting where the actor conveys what goes like this. There's multiple layers of realization that go through the doctor's head as he realizes this patient he's been treating for almost 10 years has been telling the truth all along. It's a great little moment.
And she had a great performance as well when she was watching back her footage. When obviously that doctor was interviewing her. Obviously her explaining that, obviously, you know, telling them that the Terminator's coming and everything, etc. So do you know what scene I'm talking about?
Yeah, when she's trying to break out. When she's trying to go through the 6-month probation, where she can like
and then they were gonna let her go. Yeah, that scene there. When I saw that footage, I was like, damn.
So it's like a moment where she's kind of obviously lying, right? But she's trying to find a way to kind of survive the system so that she can survive long enough to survive the apocalypse. Because she has bigger. Are we not talking about the probation hearing where she says, "I'm better now, and I realize now that these have been delusions"?
Oh yeah, sorry, no, I might be getting two scenes mixed up. You know the scene where she's watching back herself tell the doctor what happened in her life and how she's you know there's gonna be an apocalypse. That's the scene that I was referring to, which was amazing. That was another highlight moment. She played her role really well. That's the thing. She played like a cuckoo lady really well. Because she wasn't even cuckoo. She was telling the truth, but she was presented in a way where it was cuckoo. Even like for me as a viewer, I'm like, okay, I can see why people around her think that she's crazy. Because I'm watching it, I'm like, yo, like even though you're telling the truth, you look crazy right now.
If you don't know what she knows, then she's great. Yeah. One more thing I wanted to say about John and Sarah. They are a wonderful family. Like the way he reloads her guns, like that's true family.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple of scenes where she's shooting at the Terminator and hands her gun back, and he starts reloading, hands back, and they've done this for years, right? They've done this before. It's just a great little family dynamic.
Honestly, and she doesn't even realize that there's situations as well where John kind of has to be like her father figure too. Like she kind of triggers his leadership qualities during the tough love stages. Like, which question? Do you guys think it should have been like a tough love approach, or do you think the approach should have been different?
From Sarah towards John?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't see her really be a parent, right?
Yeah.
Like actually, there is, if you haven't yet checked out the Terminator series, there's 2 seasons of John and Sarah trying to be a family, and that is full of moments like this, where John wants to go to a party, but Sarah Sarah thinks that's too dangerous. Because a Terminator might find him there and stuff like that. So it's kind of mixes kind of daily life with the constant threat of Terminator assassins. It's pretty good. But yeah, in the movies we don't have time for that, right? Like where we don't really see what kind of parent she is. We just are told things, right? that they were constantly on the move, and that basically before he could walk, he was being trained in like survival tactics and stuff like that. And he thought that was normal, that he basically grew up in the rebellion before it existed, and then he had to readjust to normal life at age 10 or whatever, right? Like a war veteran who comes back to a different world and doesn't understand it and doesn't get accepted by anybody, but he's 10. Right? So I thought that angle, even though most of it is just implied and we never actually see it happening on screen, there's just these constant references, mostly from John, that kind of paint a picture of what kind of parent Sarah was. And it's completely insane for anybody else, but because of what we know, what she knows, it's the only responsible thing she could have done, right?
Yeah. One more question as well. We'll get back to Sarah and John, but in terms of like, because this was kind of bothering me, and I feel like it was a problem for me, was the mechanics of the new Terminator. At times, it didn't really make sense. It wasn't a big issue for me, but it was like, that's a bit, like, especially the scene where it was what was the thing, nitrogen or something like that.
Liquid nitrogen,
yeah, liquid nitrogen scene, and then obviously when obviously the Terminator shot him and he shattered, and then he turned into liquid back into the Terminator again. I was like, that's a bit like, that seems very fantasy rather than science fiction. Even though the two fall hand in hand, it just didn't really feel.
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of realism, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, what's a realistic depiction of a shape-shifting cyborg assassin?
I hear that. I understand that, but it's just like he turned from a liquid to a solid. That just didn't sit right with me. I was like, how the hell can you do that?
The thing is, I think they set up his powers really well. Where at the start we are basically told what his limitations are, that he can change shape and texture and color, but he can't change volume, for instance. Yeah. So and then we see him later on essentially lying on the floor, right, made to look like the floor tiles, but he has to be spread out over the entire floor because his volume has to stay the same.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, right? I don't think he ever like when he makes a sword and his arm gets bigger, the mass. It would have been cool if the same amount of mass had to disappear from somewhere else. Like to make a sword, his other arm has to get smaller, like something like that. That would have been a nice little detail, but those were breathtaking effects in 1991. Yeah. Like, ask anybody who studied like special effects, and they will tell you that this looks as good as it could have in 1991. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like they establish really well what he can and can't do. But except for what you just mentioned, where the thing about how temperature is his weak point, and if he gets frozen, he gets brittle, and he starts to malfunction, and then he can be killed. Like that hasn't really been set up yet. I thought that's a real weak point in the story, and I think that goes hand in hand with another weak point, which is that it's a convenient factory again that just happens to have all the tools they need to kill a Terminator. Right. In the first one, it's a convenience, but if you do it twice in a row, it's a bit much. And I think that's I was
gonna say I think that's also a weakness in Sarah's character as well, in terms of she saw how the John Connor's father like unloaded clip after clip into the Terminator, blew him up, everything, and they couldn't stop him with like the guns, and she didn't think of another way or another method of stopping a potential Terminator coming back, instead of just having like shed full of like guns and stuff like that. So I thought maybe they could have shown some type of development in that sense. And again, like you mentioned there, it was a bit of a weak point where it's not shown them like trying to figure out, because like they've seen so many times throughout like the whole movie that it's very difficult to kill this Terminator because it's a more advanced version, it has all like the shape-shifting properties to it. And it doesn't show them trying to develop a way to kind of like deal with that, essentially. So yeah, that's something I did pick out as well.
And I think that's easy to fix. So here's how I would rewrite Terminator 2, one of the best movies ever made.
Oh, you sure you want to go down this path?
Yes, let's go. So I think she should have planned for it. Like it should not have been a coincidence. Like she should have spent the last 10 years, 7 years scoping out places that can kill a Terminator and keep a list. And so when they're fleeing from the Terminator says, we can't kill him. our weapons aren't strong enough. And then Sarah hands him a list of locations and she says, pick one. And then that's like 10 different places in Los Angeles that have like the temperature or like the machinery to kill a Terminator. Like this time she should have been prepared. That's how you fix that.
But to be fair, because there was a scene where they mentioned that, like, obviously, John mentioned that she was shacking up with different guys, kind of learning off them, so she can, like, learn herself. So at the same time, it's like, would she even have time to do that? Because she was learning for herself as well as having to teach John as well. So it's like that takes time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's part of the preparation, though. It's like if you're learning from other people in terms of like how to survive and how to stop a Terminator, like Daniel's mentioned, is that part of it is knowing what you need and where you need to take the Terminator to try and actually kill it. Because if you can't attack it or you can't tackle it in sort of public open spaces and it's sort of invulnerable to sort of all these like bullets and explosions, etc., then you have to have an idea as to how, when the Terminator comes, you have to have an idea as to how you're going to stop the Terminator when it does come.
In the first movie, she was only reacting, right? And it was chance that they happened to end up in a factory. But the second time around, she's been preparing, right? And so it's a little bit, like you say, it's a little bit of a weak point that she has been preparing for everything except for how to kill a Terminator.
Well, but to be fair, if you're gonna prepare to kill a Terminator, she's commencing a journey that she's not ready for. So she is preparing, but she's preparing herself first, and then she needs to prepare John, and then she would have to prepare to kill the Terminator. So there's three stages.
I don't think she knows for sure that there's another Terminator coming, but the possibility has to exist, right? And so it seems a bit strange that, like, I think almost everything she does is preparing for Judgment Day, but there's got to be a possibility that another Terminator would be sent through. And that she just ignores that possibility completely, I think, is a little bit weak. And that then leads to the weak point in the story where the resolution is not a character moment for Sarah. It's just another coincidence that they end up in this factory. It is a character moment that she's strong enough and perseveres enough to get to the point that she gets to. It's just, I think it would have been so much stronger if the entire thing had been a trap for the Terminator that Sarah said like 5 years ago. And it's just been sitting there waiting for the Terminator to show up. I think that would just have been much stronger, and that would have fixed the one big weak point in the story, which is the ending, in my opinion. Because like the obvious comparison is with Aliens, right? Where Aliens and Terminator 2 do very similar things in terms of how they change the style of the movie. Like, they're not the same kind of movie as the first one. They expand on the mythos. They scale it up. It's more action heavy. And also you've got this main character who has gone from average person to hero, right? But in Aliens, the whole thing culminates in Ripley being the hero, right? And the ending happens the way it does because Ripley is who she is. And it's not quite as clean cut in Terminator 2, I don't think. Like, there's great character moments throughout the movie, like everything having to do with her parenting and how she's been preparing and her determination and desperation and trying to kill Miles, just do anything to stop the Terminators from happening and Judgment Day from happening. And then they phone in the ending a little bit. It's still a great sequence, but it's not a character-driven moment.
I hear what you guys are saying, but one of the characters had restrictions though, and her journey and her like progression when it comes to her missions was halted because they were sent to a cuckoo lab. Not cuckoo lab, but so, apologies for anyone that's been in those.
Apologies to any crazy people in the audience.
Yes, apologies, but
so
whereas the other one was given
sent to a mental hospital. Yes, no, but like it's the author had a choice and how to end that story, right? And not having it end as a result of Sarah Connor being the queen of the preppers. It's just a missed opportunity, I think. And the ending and what we got instead was not better than that. Anything else? Like, we haven't really talked about Miles yet. Any thoughts about him? So the engineer who reverse engineers.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot who the hell is Miles. I was like, who the hell is Miles? Yeah, Miles. I love the scene where they were just sitting down, obviously after the Terminator, obviously after they told Miles that he was pretty much the reason for the apocalypse. It was like, goddamn.
Yeah, you don't learn every day that you are to blame for 3 billion deaths.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt like Sarah was a bit cold in that scene where she was pretty much like blaming the guy for not, like, you're blaming him for something that he hasn't even done yet. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, So it
Yeah,
was a
but
bit
that's
like,
the game, right? Like
yeah, I hear it.
everybody gets blamed for things that haven't happened yet because they're going to happen, and we know, and you know that they're going to happen.
Yeah. And it was a good scene because it was emotionally triggering. But I was like, yeah,
Yep.
damn, she could have laid off the guy. But even Jonah to tell her like, yo, chill out, man.
But it's like an expression of her determination, right? She has
Mm.
one goal, and she has one goal, she has one purpose, and that comes together in the person of Miles, right? And that's in conflict with her humanity, right? Where she doesn't really want to hurt him, but she knows it's the responsible thing to do, probably. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that entire sequence was great, and I also like that we got an inside glimpse into Cyberdyne, and that he's not thinking about nuclear war, right? He doesn't want to create weapons. He talks about creating planes with pilots that never sleep and never make mistakes.
Mm.
Right. So that I thought that added a little bit of complexity to why would you build something like Skynet? And the answer is, yeah, it's not just Cold War stuff, because like by 1991 the Cold War is over, right? So why are you building Skynet? And the answer is they weren't, at least not initially. They were building self-driving cars and planes, and like they were making things that were supposed to make the world safer and save lives. And then it turns into that. I thought that was great. And this whole thing about this guy who for years has been dreaming of being like in the history books, right? He's going to be one of the inventors of one of the biggest discoveries in human history, and he has to throw it away because it's too dangerous.
Yeah, I felt like
I do sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like his character was definitely hard done by, especially the fact that he had to sacrifice himself as well. Like he not only did he throw away years of work, but he had to throw away his life as well. Like
reputation as well.
Yeah,
he would go down in history as a screw up who destroyed or who undermined this work.
And there was no acknowledgement as well from to be fair, we didn't have time to see any acknowledgement from Sarah and John, but still it was a bit like that. Why is this guy? Why are you guys treating him as if he's the enemy, but he's not the enemy?
Yeah, but he's like aiding the enemy, right?
Yeah, but still, he doesn't know that.
Yeah, but you also can't just let him be, because if you do, he'll invent it.
Yeah,
and if he doesn't, then somebody else will.
Sure.
But like giving that step in the process like a human face and a sympathetic one. I like Miles. Like I want to hang out with him.
Yeah.
Like that, right?
I like Miles as well, man. Miles is a good guy. I felt like that's
and like they give him two children and everything, right? Like it is like subtle as a sledgehammer, but it works.
Yeah. They smoked him badly, man. How many times did he get shot? He got shot like 10 times.
Yeah.
And he was still strong enough to. I remember the scene where he was like, I don't know how long I can hold on to it. And I was like, God damn. That's
still trying to save people until the last second, right? He
didn't have he was trying to save the guys that shot him as well.
He gave them a chance to get away,
dropped
right?
it.
Yeah.
Sorry?
He gave them a chance to get away.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? You should have just smoked them. Why are you giving them a warning for?
Yeah, but that shows that he's fundamentally a decent person.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on Terminator 2?
I'm gonna pause. Like I said, I think this might be the best. Funny enough, straight after Terminator 2, I actually ended up going through Arnold Schwarzenegger's catalog. I've seen quite a few. No, I don't know if I've seen quite a few, but I've seen a few of his movies. Obviously, I had to go back to watch Predator. The first Predator. I just remember that movie was amazing. I was like, yeah, the 90s might have been the time. But this not kind of to go off topic, but were 90 movies like a good time for movies?
I think like it was kind of a golden age of Hollywood, where a lot of great movies were made, where a bunch of people were working who really knew story and really knew how to make you care about characters. There's good movies in every decade, but it seems like the 90s are just
the golden era.
Like my recollection of the 90s was born in 86, mid to late 90s is when I became aware of movies. And my recollection of movies from that time is, and that part of that is being a child, right? But you could just go to the movies or put on a movie and expect a decent time.
Okay.
Right? Like obviously not every movie in the 90s was good or even watchable, but they had like this baseline of, like we talked about this in our Twisters review, right? Where the first Twister is just has like a human core to it that just works. Even if you don't care about the tornadoes or anything, there's still people there that you can care about. And the 90s were, I think were really good at that. And Terminator 2, like this movie as well, like if like you can care about Sarah's journey and you care about John's outlook on things, right? And there's a humanity in this that isn't just explosions and chases and one-liners, right? Like there's real humanity here.
Yeah. It looks like the 90s was the golden age. Did Terminator even come out? I mean, not Terminator. Did Predator even come out in the 90s?
That's an 80s movie.
Oh, okay, well, I got that completely wrong. But yeah, man, old movies. Those are old movies. I'm starting to like a lot of them. I've watched quite a few 90 films. I've watched quite a lot, quite a few actually. So I think it was the movies before those times. I was like, yeah, it was a bit hard to watch. But in terms of Terminator 2, the sequels I don't know. I don't want to say ever made, but because I have to think about this, but it's definitely in contention of being the best sequel ever made for me.
It's definitely up there, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think in this movie they also really codify the feel of the Terminators, because they have two of them, so we get more Terminator action and we get Terminator fighting Terminator, and just the way they feel, how they're heavy and slow and unyielding. And like that scene where John is driving down these storm drains on his moped, and then a truck just drops down from a bridge and starts following him, because that's the Terminator has spotted him, right? And he hijacked this truck and he just drives down into like off the bridge into the storm drain. And then there's this chase scene in the storm drains. Like, that's one of the great sequences.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the scene that got me hooked.
And then the second Terminator shows up and he keeps reloading his shotgun with one hand. And he's got the sunglasses on and he's holding John by the neck with the other hand. It's just perfection.
Yeah. Cool. Well, is there anything else anyone wants to say? Anyone wants to add?
I think we've covered it.
All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed today's discussion. Have they?
Yeah. Let us know your thoughts on the Terminator below. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you very much. And we will catch you next week. Au revoir.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.